Yes, guys, hope everyone is doing good. And before I get into anything, I'd just like to say thank you. The support on the last video was mind blowing. Honestly, I can't thank you all enough. You know, the comments, the interactions, the likes, the subscribe, crazy. And that's what I mean. Like, Leeds fans are the best in the world. When we're all together and we're all wanting the team to do well. I mean, we all want the team to do well, but you know what I mean? We're all together and we're all focused on the performance of the team and the team doing well. We're unstoppable. Support was amazing. Like, keep it up. Like, let's get a little thing going, a little community here, you know. Just enjoy each other. You know, let's get on with each other. If we don't agree, let's have a normal conversation. There's one comment that you might have all seen, which is interesting. But yeah, honestly, the support is amazing. I thank you all, legends. And yes, I changed the t-shirt because it is so warm. But anyway, let's get into the video. Right, the transfer window is done, finished. None of that madness. We've got the team, we've got the squad, we know what it is now, until January at least. So in this video, I'm just going to go through the transfer window, what I thought, improvements we could have done, what we did well. And is the squad good enough? Is the squad deep enough? Is there enough depth? Is there strength in depth? I'm just going to go through that in this video and have a discussion and a chat and show you some things about some players in the squad. Yeah, let's get into it. And as you guys can see here, what I've done is I've used my favourite little pitch thing again. And I've got the squad. And the white is the starting squad, or what I believe to be starting players. And what I've done is, in each position, as you can see, I've gone through likability of them playing, are they good enough? And I've made them like a close system. So Green, for example, is a player that will fit straight back into the team. I think can do a very good job there. Yellow is a player that is kind of maybe not used to that position, won't play a lot in that position, or is not quite first team level. And red is unlikely due to, you know, not needed in that position, quality, youth, all that stuff. And blue is loan. And initially, when you look at this, and let's talk about striker. There's been a lot spoken about this transfer window, about striker, right? And as you can see here, striker. And initially, you'll look at that and you'll think, you've got three players that can play there. You've got Greenwood who can do a job there, I guess, if you need it. I could maybe put him red. And Godonto, we don't know, but I'm going to put him yellow for now. But then the problem is this. Bamford, at the moment, is you could argue is a yellow because of his injury record. He's never available to start, right? Rodrigo is injured. So at the moment, the striker is this. And this is where the frustrations came in yesterday, I believe. Because you had a player in there, you know, you've got two starting strikers. And when these two come back, you've got four players there which can really push each other. But realistically, at the moment, it is this. And Bamford is probably a yellow. So I understand the need for a striker. And obviously early in the window, you'd expect the board to maybe deal with that. And I think what you saw earlier on was, initially we went to Charles de Ketelaere. He was that golden signing that Leeds wanted. And we tried for him. And I saw people say, why did we spend so long wanting to get on him? Why would we spend so long on Charles de Ketelaere and not move for other targets? Because the issue is this. They clearly thought they had a chance of getting him, right? The board were confident in getting him. They knew this by conversations and their own ego, right? The board thought they could get the player. And although it was touted he was always interested in AC Milan, I've seen some other reports from journalists saying at some points, at stages, he was interested in a move to the Premier League. But in the end, talking to his agent and the money and the draw to the AC Milan was the reason, Champions League as well, was the reason he wanted to go that way. And when it's your golden target, you really want him, I think it makes perfect sense to push for him more than anything else. So I don't understand that argument. And also then, Cody Gakpo was the next one. And people saying we tried it too late yesterday. But what I would say is this. At the time, Cody Gakpo, and Phil's just going to report on it, was wanted by a lot of Premier League clubs, but nothing ever happened. And you got to say, well, why did nothing happen? And for me, it's because PSV didn't want to sell at that point earlier in the window. They needed to understand their position, their squad, and everything first, right? They got knocked out of the Champions League a few days ago. It was clear then they were not going to keep the player, right? So then they were willing to sell. However, Southampton came in with a bid, we upped the bid, and Phil said there was other teams that were around that. So the value skyrocketed, right? As well as Van Gaal getting in his ear telling him to stay at PSV for the World Cup, which is just really weird for me. But whatever. And then the board saying, outpricing him, basically. This is what Phil said in his article. It's all there to read. So then you've got to react to that. And at this point, Calmawendo favoured a move in France. Again, World Cup, thinking about the World Cup. He wanted to stay in France, where he knew he could perform, right? And we can't deny that. People will deny it. You can't. These are the facts. The lad that failed his medical at Nice wanted to stay in France. He failed his medical. So at that point, and I get it, yeah, we left it really late. I understand that. But that's because our main target, we pushed and pushed and pushed. And after we'd done that main target, that's when the season kind of started. And then Rodrigo was banging goals in. So of course, we're fans, we see the players once a week. These guys see the players every single day. They know them on a human level. They watch them train. They see them score these goals. They had faith that Rodrigo could continue this form and would take the pressure off getting a striker. That is clear. Then Bamford gets injured, and then Rodrigo gets injured, and of course then the board are reacting. You might think, yes, should get another striker anyway for competition. But at one point, this is what it looks like. You've got 3 players for that position. But then I understand it, yeah. That's an argument then. Do you think these guys are reliable or good enough? Rodrigo started on fire, so you can't dismiss that. Gelhart's been alright, and is clearly a big prospect at the club. He's just signed a new 5-year deal. Bamford is a player that we know will score goals when he's fit. The problem is he fit? And he's not. So that's when everything on the last day suddenly comes to think, right, we've got to get a striker in. And that's where we get Gunonto. I'd just like to say real quick, yes, I realise I'm saying it wrong. I change that very soon in the video. I apologise. I say it correctly in a minute. I apologise. And I'll quickly go on Gunonto, and then I'm going to go on the other transfers. But with Gunonto, and I'll go out on a limb, I think he's going to be class for us. Whether he'll play striker, I'm not sure. I think he's going to be more of a winger. But he's a player I really like. And when we were linked with him a few weeks ago, I was very excited. And apart from Gakpo, I think he'd have been my favourite, if I'm being honest. Seriously. I'd preferred Gakpo, obviously, for obvious reasons. He's an incredible talent. But this guy has been touted. People saying, I think, was it Phil? Someone else said he was the plan for January. But for me, that's just been accelerated forward. And the comments Jesse Marsh made, I find it weird that he said, I can't say the word, specifically said, he's not a first-team player. He said that about a player that doesn't play for the club. Which is just weird, if you're linked with Adams, he'd praise him, then he'd say, but I don't think he's ready yet. For me, I think they knew they were going to get him in January or next year. So that was a challenge to Gunonto to say, you keep proving yourself, you develop, and we will sign you. I think that's what it was. Now, obviously that's been accelerated forward. But for what it is, and for what he can be, and the potential he has, I'd say that's an excellent signing. It's not the out-and-out striker we want. But I think we're forgetting the premise of this. You look at Brighton. They've not had a striker for years. Not bothered them. Could have won a few more games with it. But what's their expectations here with this? That's what we've got to think about. If everyone's getting annoyed and we didn't buy a striker, is that striker the difference between us going down and staying up? I highly doubt it. And simply because of the other players you can see around here, we have more goals in more areas, in my opinion. And I still think when Rodrigo's back, he will continue to score. Bamford's going to get a few this season if he gets a little run of games. But of course, I would have took Cody Gakpo. Of course, I'm not saying I wouldn't. But the circumstances changed in a crazy day, and this is what we're left with. And he's a player that Leeds really liked, and they've got him. And give him a little time, I think he's going to shine. And I'll talk about Brighton because they've not had a striker. No one's talking about how... Everyone talks about how amazing their recruitment is. They've not had a decent striker in years. They've been fine. Look where they are this season. They've still not got that striker. You could say Danny Welbeck, but come on. Is Danny Welbeck better than Rodrigo and Bamford? I don't think he is, personally. So, where's the energy for them? No, it's to your own club. But whatever. So that's that on striker, I think. Like, I'm going to say, yes, I think if we'd have got in a certain player, but these players like Che Adams and all that, the board didn't want them. So, and when you look for a player, there's so many things that goes into recruiting a player. The player is not right for the club. And Southampton didn't want to sell. Wolves didn't want to sell Hwang. Clubs don't want to sell players unless you pay ridiculous amounts of money. That's the way it works. So we've got a young talent in who's played for his country at 18. The youngest player to ever score for his country at 18 years old. Come on. Stop being so negative about it, in my opinion. So yeah, that's a striker rant. So now we've got to look at other areas of the pitch and talk about other signings. So what we've got, left back. And this is probably, if you look at it, the lightest area. Obviously, Dallas is injured. He's red because he's injured and I don't think he'll play there anyway. Right? Helde isn't really a left back. Okay? But he's an option. So I got Firpo in green because I honestly think when he's back, he's in for a shout of playing. Not because I think he's better than Struijk. Just because I think Jesse Marsh rates him going forward. He brings a lot. Will that mean Struijk moves into centre-back? Struijk's just got a call-up, by the way, for Holland, which is incredible. Congratulations to that guy, honestly, what a man. Will that mean Struijk goes into centre-back for Koch or Llorente, probably Llorente, and then Firpo comes in? I wouldn't mind that. But this is the point. Not a left-back. Injury issues. So I understand the left-back situation. I saw Kai Wagner, and I saw an article saying we are going to move from in January. That's what I saw. So if that's the case, good. And people got to remember, it's different this year. There is a World Cup. There is a 2-month break in the season. So the transfer window is like the first one because it's a new season. It's basically a new 2 months, guys. That's a long time. It's basically 2 little seasons this year. So the strategy is completely different. You can buy players in January because it's like a new season, you know? So if that's the way we want to do it, I'm all right with that. But yes, I see the left-back problem. I do see it. I do. And I think that's more important in terms of depth than striker. But I think Struijk's done really well. Let's not pretend that. He's arguably done better than our actual right-back. Do we need a new right-back? No. Because you need to be patient with players. I think Struijk's done excellent. And I think if there comes a situation where we have to bring Firpo into the team and Struijk maybe goes into centre-back, Struijk is still doing that. He can still do that job defensively if Firpo is out of position, which I like. Firpo will get chances to go forward and he will do well. He's good at going forward. We know this. Well, I've seen it. So they were the 2 issues for me. And I think if we get Kai Wagner in there in January, I think then we've got a really good, complete squad, if I'm being honest. If we can coop a striker like Gakpo or something like that, it's not a striker, a winger, whatever, in January and Kai Wagner, I'd be, wow, 10 out of 10 window for me. But I think in terms of recruitment, I'm going to give my review after. But yeah, that's it for that bit. And I guess looking down here, you know, you've got these guys here, but Harrison can play either wing, Sennesteri can play either wing, Somerville can come in, Aronson can go out there if he needs, but he's not going to. We know his position, he's number 10. Again, abundance in here. Click and Aronson, probably the 2 main ones, or Rodrigo if Bamford is fit. And just options here. So if we're good in that position, there's a lot of depth in that position. Is it the best depth? Probably not in terms of raw quality. Aronson obviously is incredible. Rodrigo, questionable if he's a better 10 or a striker. Click is 30 odd years old. He does a job, but I don't think he can start for Leeds consistently at this age. His quality I've not denied. He's always got that quality in Mateusz Click. Gelhardt, again, young lad, inconsistent, I guess, doesn't play as much. And I guess if you had a Gakpo in there, you're really starting to see his strength. That's why Leeds wanted Gakpo. And then midfield for me. And I'd still say we could be one short, personally. For me, this is the area where I probably want more bodies in than here and here, than left back and striker. Anyone agree? What do you think? Oh, let me know in the comments what you guys think, looking at this. Because I think you've got these two here, solid, right? You know, and you bring Forshaw in. I don't think, again, I think Forshaw's the first person to tell you as well. I don't think he starts for Leeds consistently. I don't think he can. We saw it last year, it didn't work. Maybe it's better with a Rocker or an Adams. But one of these two will probably get injured and one will get more cards and will have to sit out. So if they're out at the same time, this is what you're left with. That's a big worry for me. I think in a position where there's two of you, you need two good replacements. I think Click is further forward. I don't like him in there. Further forward is his role for me. And if these two are out, I'm worried. Gab is a young guy. He's playing really well, by the way. Because he's 21s. I've got Aronson in there. You know, if really needs be, he can drop deep and be an 8. But we need him up here creating stuff. So I get there's a little flexibility. But for me, I'd have wanted a centre mid, personally. Maybe to back up these guys. That's what I'd have wanted, more than any other, if I'm being honest. And that's it for that, you know. I think you've got Llorente, you've got Koch, you've got Strout, Cooper, Helde, Cresswell on loan. Centre-back were fine. I think most of these guys, well, I say all these guys are capable of doing well in a partnership as well. Meslier is our number one. He's class, and Robles, but Meslier is there, so we're fine there. You can't have two class keepers. That just doesn't work, does it? So in terms of the overall transfer window, in terms of recruitment and bringing players in, for me, like I said, there's a lot been said about striker, and people are going to lose their minds saying we're going to go down, or we're in big trouble because we're not signing a striker. But the depth for me is that sitting defensive midfielder. Because all it takes is Rock and Adams to be out, then we're in big trouble. There's one striker at the end of the day, so there's one person to fill that void. In central midfielder, you could have potential two players out at the same time, right? And that's my issue, I think. Personally, I'd think centre mid, but then obviously they believe in the young players. This is why I want to talk about in this window the young players. But I said at one of my first ever videos about the squad, I said about the young players and how they need to step up this season. Because we are a club that believes in youth. If you want to just bring players in for 10 million, 25, 6, 7-year-olds to do a job, in my opinion, we're not going to grow and develop. I think we've seen that limits where you can finish in the table. We've seen it with so many teams that do that recruitment strategy. You don't really get above 12th, 13th, and I think we have much more potential than that. And with young players, you can either generate a lot of money or they will be a star for you. With players respectfully, like Che Adams and that, there's no real stardom there. It will get you a few extra goals, potentially, but they don't necessarily move you up the table in terms of match play, impact, right? And value. So he would play for a few years and then he'd go. Whereas if you get a young player in like Ganato, who could easily work, you have a player that is going to blow up, which means you keep him or you sell him for a big price. You have then that money to reinvest. It's all about reinvestment. That's the structure we are doing. I want to talk about young players. I mean Gelhardt. I mean Somerville. Now Dan James has gone. This is, for me, a thing for Somerville to say, you're going to get a bit more time than you think. He's got to prove himself. I think he's good enough. I do. I just think he's got to prove himself. He's got to be brave like he's 23s. He's got to own the pitch. 23s, that's his game. That's his pitch. He rules it. Do you know what I mean? Whereas for the first team, it's a bit more passive. He kind of just gives the ball and moves. Does some decent moves, but then stops. He's got to just drive at players. Believe in himself in that way. Same with Gelhardt. Exactly the same for Gelhardt. And you see he implements himself on on the game more for me. But these young players have to step up. Gnonto, I bigged him up, but he's kind of got to perform. I'm not going to say instantly, but I mean, I'll give him like a few weeks to a month. I think he's got to be on that bench and he's got to be pushing the players to make an impact. Because at the end of the day, Leeds have brought him in because he's a big prospect, and he's not a guy that I think or Leeds think will be sitting on the bench. Yeah, I think he wants to play. He's come here to play. He'll take a few weeks to settle in. You know, he's come from Zurich. He's Italian. He's not used to his country. His English is excellent, by the way. But Noto, is it Noto? Noto. It's not. It's no G. Sorry, there's no G in there. It's like Noto. Wilfred Noto. Is that right? Noto. Not Gianotto. Anyway, what am I doing? Noto. Wilfred Noto. And I think, yeah, he's got to impress. He's got to impress. He's already got people that saying it's not good enough, the board of disgrace. What? Because they brought him in. That'd motivate me as a player, if I'm being brutally honest. Because players see social media, guys. I keep saying this. They all see it. Of course they do. They're human beings. Of course they have social media. Of course they see it. Come on. Of course they're curious what people are saying. Surely you know this when you're in them or commenting the name. They just type their name into the Twitter search, and they can see every tweet with their name in it. So when you're replying to the Leeds thing about Noto, please just remember he will probably see this. Let's back the boy, yeah. What I would say about him as well, I'm hearing he's only scored so many goals in the league. The league isn't great, but neither was the league Brendan Aronson came from. Mal Roca hadn't played almost for 2 years. Has that been a problem? Nope. Tyler Adams wasn't getting the Leipzig squad. Has that been a problem? No. No, these are things that you've got to take in consideration. The only player for me that really came, that proved himself, was Sinisterra. Because he was playing in Europa League and scoring and lighting up his league. And these are guys... This is our team now. This is what we have. This is our squad, right? And I think we've got to believe in our squad. We've got to believe in the players we've got. The window is over. Stop crying at the board that nothing can change. Get it, you're angry. We didn't get the player you wanted. But that football doesn't always work like that. And the same, we should have done everything earlier. We brought in six players early. People saying, oh, we haven't learned from last year. We brought in 6 players very early. Is that not learning from last year? And we brought 2 players in very late. So people saying we've not learned from last year. Were you blind for the first 2 months of the window? Did you not see what was happening? We have brought 6 players in early who will all impact the squad this season. 4 of which are doing excellent for the squad right now. Yes, the striker took longer. How many strikers did you see move on deadline day? There was loads. It's a difficult market. It's a striker. Everyone needs a striker. Clubs know that. Support the lads. Guys, we're sick for something in the Premier League. That hasn't changed. The squad is still the same. I just want to say this as well. The Dan James, I would have preferred to keep him. I like Dan James. I think he's got really good attributes in certain positions for this team. You know? But he's gone on loan to get game time. I'd imagine he wants to play for Wales at the World Cup. So I'd have kept him, but he's not in the plans and we've got to deal with it. And I'm happy with the squad. I think this squad is good. I think we've got a very good squad. With maybe a central midfielder and arguably a striker in there, I think we would have been 10 out of 10. But for me, the windows, considering what we needed and the value we've got for the players and how many players we could sell on if they perform really well, 4 more, I'd give the window an 8.5. What do you guys think? I'd love to know. Just take into consideration as well that some teams have spent 150 million on 3 players. We spent, 90 odd million on 6 or 7, most of which have good sell-on value, and most of which are performing at the moment in the Premier League. That's all I want to say on the window. I appreciate the support. Honestly, that was insane. Keep it up. If you don't mind liking and subscribe, if you enjoy this, it's a bit longer, but I like these ones. We can talk in the comments. Let me know what you think. Yeah, appreciate it, and peace.